So this doesn't look like the FPF studios. Well, that's because it's not. I'm actually on a trip in Utah, but I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit more about the CBI lab case. It's been a couple weeks now since my first video and since Yvonne Missy was formally charged with 102 felony counts related to forgery, cybersecurity, etc. My previous video goes into this in a little bit more detail, so if you want to go and watch that, I'll link it up above so you can kind of get familiar with the facts of the case. But in short, she falsified reports, deleted data, and misreported DNA analysis results. This occurred between 2008 and 2023, so it's 15 years worth of casework that's now being investigated and reevaluated. So there's no new updates or news related to the case unless it's just not being reported on. I'm sure there's plenty of things happening behind the scenes at the DA's office that we're just not privy to yet. But that being said, there is already action being taken due to this case. A bipartisan bill was actually introduced last week into the Colorado Assembly. Forensics Magazine published an article, which I'll link down below because it summarizes it very well. So it basically says the House Bill 25-1275, or the Forensic Science Integrity Act, would require crime lab employees to report wrongful action they witnessed to their supervisor within 2 weeks. The supervisor would then have to investigate the claim and report it to the CBI director. According to the bill, the director must then inform all relevant district attorneys, and in turn, the district attorneys must notify the defendants in each case. The bill also requires that crime lab directors review all records to identify wrongful actions committed before July 1st, 2025 by both current and former lab employees. CBI would have until September of 2025 to notify district attorneys of any cases involving misconduct, including all cases handled by Ms. Woods. House Bill 25-1275 also establishes counsel for those currently in prison that may have been impacted by Woods' misconduct. The bill gives the defendant the right to investigate the wrongful action, to request discovery related to the wrongful action, and to seek post-conviction relief based on this wrongful action. I'll link the article and the bill so you guys can read it if you're interested. This is definitely a swift response to this case. Now, many of you responded to my first video, and I 1000% agree with all of you. It's a total miscarriage of justice. It's absolutely heartbreaking for the victims and just shocking to the forensic community. The question arises, how does this happen? Aren't there supposed to be reviews, verifications? And the answer to all of that is yes. And those reviews and verifications are put into place to prevent false reporting, whether it's accidental or intentional. Part of the workflow for any type of analysis includes verification and review by a second person, and depending on the situation, it may even involve a third person or a supervisor. This is a checks and balances, so to speak. Now, I'm not entirely sure what that review process would have looked like, if it required rerunning samples or if it was simply a review of the lab report. I'm also not sure if the results would have shown if there were samples deleted or alterations done. I know, for example, for latent prints, when a conclusion goes to the verification stage, a second examiner conducts their own independent analysis and comes to a conclusion, and they review the analysis that was done by the first examiner to determine if proper procedure and markups were made. So I'm not sure if the review process at CBI for the DNA results would have involved a review of the instrumentation, the process, and if any of that original data is reported, or if it's just stored somewhere, kind of like how metadata is embedded into a photo. So if there's any DNA folks that are watching, if you could please shed some clarity and insight on the review process, please share your comments down below. But it seems to me that there are inconsistencies that were discoverable now. They should have been discoverable back in 2014 and 2018 when she was investigated for possible misconduct. And a little bit about forensic labs in general. Colorado Bureau of Investigations is accredited by the ANAB, which is the largest accreditation body with over 2,500 organizations accredited in 80 countries. They do accreditations for all types of labs, not just forensic labs, but they do audits and assessments to make sure that the lab is following proper procedures, standards, and guidelines. To achieve accreditation is not a small feat. So all of this is to say that CBI should have had rigorous standards and policies in place for training, processing, reporting, and for quality assurance. And this is especially so because they are accredited. Another thing that really struck me was when she was asked by investigators as to why she did what she did, she said she wanted to move the casework along and to report results out quickly. It's possible that there's pressure to have quick turnarounds and there was a high volume of cases and just not enough personnel or time to handle it all. This is a tale as old as time. Labs are sorely underfunded, they're understaffed, casework has increased, and when it comes to budgets for crime labs, those have stayed the same, or in some cases, they've been slashed entirely. Money goes to other areas first, and unfortunately, crime labs are kind of at the bottom of the totem pole. So I can understand if she felt over time that there was just never, it was a never-ending cycle and just figured out a solution to make the work go faster. And this is where ethics and integrity plays a big part. For the most part, people who go into this line of work are hardworking, honest, and they want to do the best that they can to help their communities. So to me, the important issue here is that she chose to do something that violated policies and procedures and ethical and moral codes, and she did it time and time again. It's her own internal dialogue and thought process that led her to those decisions and to those actions. And when she was previously investigated, she was eventually allowed to continue working, and so that could have given her a feeling of, I can't be touched. Perhaps it was ego, and especially because she was routinely praised for her work, and it went to her head. She was considered a star analyst by her colleagues, a go-to person, and so that can definitely inflate someone's ego, and if unchecked, it becomes very destructive, a la Icarus. So ultimately, there are a number of things that play a factor, both external and internal. While there were certainly breakdowns in the quality assurance part of it, it ultimately comes down on her to take responsibility for her actions and to take ownership of what she did. Sure, there's a high casework volume, but quantity should never trump quality. It's important to always maintain high quality in the work, even if that means turnaround time has to be a little bit slower. We cannot sacrifice the quality of the work just to be fast. The fallout of this is going to be immense. It's going to be far-reaching. There's already a bill that's been introduced. There are cases that were supposed to go to trial and now have resulted in plea agreements because the DA's office simply does not want to bring up the fact that Missy Woods was the analyst in those cases. There are hundreds of cases that now have to be reviewed for accuracy. Who knows how many suspects were never questioned or arrested? Who knows how many people were wrongfully convicted because of this false reporting? And there are countless victims who may have never gotten justice because their case never went anywhere. It also shakes the forensic discipline to the core. It tarnishes the good work that people are doing, and it erodes public trust. Now, unfortunately, while I was making this video, I was sent an article by my friend at Texas Sweetheart on Instagram, go follow her, about a CSI in Corpus Christi who was terminated for mishandling evidence. This is absolutely unacceptable, and it's really upsetting and frustrating to read about another failing in the forensic field. The CCPD lab director, Robert May, said it best. The consequences of the CSI's actions are immediate and potentially far-reaching. It's especially concerning because it's not a matter of simple negligence, but a conscious decision to violate policy and engage in unethical behavior. Like anything in law enforcement, a crime lab relies not only on its competence, but its trustworthiness. Trust is our currency. Trust that our actions match our words, that our procedures are valid and followed, and that we are committed to finding the truth no matter where the evidence leads us. That trust was breached. That's true in the CCPD case and the CBI case. So thank you at Texas Sweetheart for sending that to me and bringing that to my attention. So that's all I have for you guys. I know it was a lot, so thank you for sticking it out with me. Leave your comments down below with your thoughts and your insights. Thank you for tuning in and supporting my channel. And if you guys haven't subscribed already, please hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.